It was the early morning hours of December 21st, 1997, when a bystander walked into Chili's restaurant to see the nighttime manager laying on the floor in a pool of blood. It was determined later that she was shot on her knees execution style. Her engagement ring was still on her finger, and her purse was at her side. It didn't appear that anything was missing. Well, we fast forward to today's commutation hearing, March 13th, 2023, for Samuel Kelly, who was convicted of second-degree murder and sentenced to life without the ability for parole. What is especially interesting about this case is that Samuel Kelly has yet to admit that he was the one that pulled the trigger. So it's going to be interesting to see how this plays out. With that, let's get into it.
All right, we are ready to proceed, and we have Mr. Kelly there in front of us. Mr. Kelly, good morning.
Morning.
Sir, would you introduce yourself? Tell us your name and your DOC number.
My name is Samuel Kelly III, DOC number 405535.
All right, Mr. Kelly, and I see you're represented by counsel. We'd like for them to introduce themselves, please.
Good morning, Ms. Renazzo. Robert Lancaster with the LSU Parole and Reentry Clinic here today for Mr. Kelly. With me is Gabrielle Daigle. She's a second-year student at the LSU Law Center. She's been assisting Mr. Kelly in the preparation of this hearing. She helped prepare the documents that were submitted by the LSU Law Clinic. She's a second-year student. She's not certified under Louisiana Supreme Court Rule 20, but she is able to make a statement of support at the end of the hearing if the committee deems it appropriate.
All right, thank you. And I do have somewhat of a list of the folks who are at Angola. I have Christian Seymour.
Yes, ma'am.
And Keith Morse. And would the other two individuals like to introduce themselves, please?
Mary Loria, I'm his fiance.
I'm Eric Nelson, speaking on Sam's behalf as a friend.
Also joining us, we have the Parole Project, who is here in support. We have Troy DeLone, who's here by Zoom, Justin Kelly, and Dominique Minor. We also have a representative from the DA's office who will be speaking as well. And we'll call on him at the appropriate time to do so. Robert Luttrell, the victim's husband, will also be speaking. First, I'll read some identifying information into the record, Mr. Kelly. I'll ask you to confirm it. And then I'm going to turn it over to Mr. Roche in case it's been assigned to him this morning. He'll take the lead on the interview. So, Mr. Kelly, you are Samuel Kelly. Your DOC, as stated, is 405535. You were sentenced in Jefferson Parish, December 1998, to second-degree murder. You're serving a life sentence for that. Also, for criminal conspiracy of armed robbery, you have a 5-year sentence for that. Is that information correct, Mr. Kelly?
Yes, ma'am.
Would you, Mr. Roche has a presentation and some questions for you.
Thank you, Madam Chairman. Good morning, Mr. Kelly.
Good morning, sir.
Mr. Kelly, I have a presentation, and then I will follow that presentation up with some questions. At any time, any information in my presentation is not accurate, would you please stop?
Yes, sir.
Madam Chairman, fellow board members, before us this morning, we have Samuel K. Kelly III, DOC number 45535. Kelly is here this morning seeking a recommendation for a commutation of sentence for his life plus 5-year sentence for two 1998 convictions, one for second-degree murder and the other for conspiracy to commit armed robbery. The victim of these heinous offenses was Mrs. Jennifer Luttrell, a 24-year-old manager of Chili's restaurant in Kenner, Louisiana, who was shot execution style in the back of her head as she was on her knees and later died at the hospital. After a lengthy investigation, Kelly was arrested on April 6, 1998, and charged with second-degree murder and criminal conspiracy to commit armed robbery. The actual offense happened 3 or 4 months earlier on December 21st, 1997. On November 7th, 1998, approximately 11 months after the offense, Mr. Kelly was found guilty by a jury of his peers of second-degree murder and conspiracy to commit armed robbery. On December 2nd, 1998, 19 days short of 1 year, he was sentenced to life at hard labor at DOC without benefit of probation, parole, or suspension and sentence. He received 5 years for the conspiracy conviction to run consecutively with the life sentence, for a total sentence of life plus 5 years. Mr. Kelly is currently 47 years old, relatively a young man, and he was 22 years old at the time of the murder. Mr. Kelly is a first felony offender with a relatively short criminal history. He has 2 arrests as a juvenile, one in 1990 and at the age of 15 by the New Orleans Police Department for armed robbery. In that case, he pled guilty to the first 3 robbery and received 2 years sentence and 2 years active probation. In 1999, in 1991, he was arrested again by Jefferson Parish for theft of goods. He pled guilty and received probation. As an adult, on December 1st, 1997, he was arrested for disturbing the peace and disorderly conduct. There was no disposition in this case. 10 days later, on December 11th, 1997, he was arrested for no driver's license. Again, there was no disposition in this case. 10 days later, he robbed Chili's and murdered Mrs. Luttrell. He satisfactorily completed all of his juvenile probation. There is no indication that he's ever been on supervision as an adult. Our position in this case comes from the Jefferson Parish law enforcement community and the Jefferson Parish DA's office. Mr. Randall Myers, the Assistant DA from Jefferson Parish, is here today and will make a statement later on in this hearing. Jefferson Parish has also submitted a very strong letter opposing any clemency in this case. Also, we have opposition from attorney Robert Luttrell, the husband of the deceased victim, Jennifer Luttrell. He states in his opposition that he was only 25 years old and just graduated from law school, and Jennifer and he were just about to start enjoying their lives when she was murdered. Mr. Kelly has a low risk assessment. There's a low needs assessment. There's a high school diploma, a college degree in Christian ministry. His current job is a substance abuse peer minister. He has a fair institution record. He has 30 plus disciplinary write-ups, the last one being August 3rd, 2011, a number 10 for Friday. That was 11 and a half years ago. Mr. Kelly, something happened in 2011. You had 30 plus write-ups in your first 11 to 12 years of incarceration. Then all of a sudden, things turned around. You started taking programs. You started taking capacity and vocational training. What program, what event, or what person, or what happened that you can say was responsible for your disciplinary turnaround in 2011?
Well, again, thank you, Mr. Roche and board members for having me this morning. Prior to, yes, 2011 is the last time I received a write-up, but actually it was in 2004 that my turning point actually began, and the reality of no longer wanting to violate the laws of the land were in my foresight. It was in 2004 that I had a spiritual awakening more than anything, that I actually surrendered my life to Jesus Christ. And it was in 2004 that I became acutely aware of the act or acts that I had transgressed against not only the family of Miss Luttrell, but also against society, the community, my family, and all the shame that I brought upon so many people.
Okay, so actually, it was 204, and it took you to 211 to get it all together when you stopped getting write-ups and started taking vocational training.
Yes, sir.
Okay. Programs completed, Thinking for a Change, Substance Abuse Program, Living in Balance, 1 and 2, the Angola Residential Substance Abuse Program, and Celebrate Recovery. It's also completed anger management, 100 hours pre-release, Malachi Dance, Moral Compass, Victim Awareness, My Change Plan, and Getting It Right. And he's completed Compassionate Cultivation Training and Kairos Training. Faith-based program, there were many, but I'm going to mention a few. Lead Like Jesus, Experiencing God, Mind Like Christ, spirit, life in the spirit, and making peace with the past. He's also had multiple training in multiple vocations: welding, horticulture, landscaping, HVAC, small engine repair. He has several NISA certificates, and he has training with IC3 levels 1, 2, and 3. Organizational participation, New Men's Ministry, Malachi Dads, and Toastmasters International. He has multiple notes, statements, and letters of support from family and friends. His brother, Christian Seymour, Anthony Hingo, Mary L'Oreal, Annetta Moore, Eric Nelson, Chelsea Nelson, Andrea Wallace, Paul Mayo, Charles Amos, Keith Bayham, and Todd Streeter Jones. He also has letters from Dr. John Robinson of the New Orleans Baptist Theological Seminary, Ms. Laura Norton, the founder and coordinator of Compassionate Cultivation, Mr. Gordon A. Newman, founder of the New Men's Ministry, Frank Sparks, high school teacher, and Troy DeLone, a reentry manager. He has over 20 letters from fellow reentry mentors and 9 or 10 letters from mentees. He has multiple letters of thank you from DOC officials for participation in the reentry program. There's also acknowledgments from 3 articles that he wrote for the Angelite magazine. Transition plan. He has included 2 transition plans, one in Chalmette, Louisiana. He will be living with Mr. and Mrs. Moore and working as a dispatcher in their trucking company. As one to Parchment, Mississippi. I think he's going to be working for the Mississippi Department of Corrections. Mr. Kelly, which transition plan will you follow if and when you're released?
Well, Mr. Roche, right now, the strongest transition plan I have is in Chalmette, working as a dispatcher with the trucking company of Mr. and Mrs. Kayana Moore. That particular transition plan would allow me to also tap into some resources that would allow me to take a CDL course.
You're leaning toward Chalmette.
Yes, sir.
Mr. Kelly, I've tried to include all the essential information about your incarceration to assist my fellow board members in making their decision about your commutation of sentence today. But if I would include all the information that was given to me by your student attorney, all the information that was given to me by parole probation, we would be here all morning and most of the afternoon. So I've tried to include the essential information. But I must commend you. You have served your incarceration very well. You have taken this an inordinate amount of programs. your vocational skill in horticulture, welding, landscaping, small engine repair, organizational participation with the new management industry. You have done very well. And you should be commended. And your disciplinary conduct has improved over the last 12 years. Oftentimes, you have to have a period of adjustment to incarceration. And you've done very well in the last 12 years of your incarceration. The first 11 or 12 years was not as good as it should have been. Taking that into consideration, Mr. Kelly, I have some major concerns about your communication system. And I will address each one of these concerns separately and give you a chance to make statements on my concern. Our first concern is that in all of your statements about these two egregious offenses, in your application statement, in your interview with probation and parole officer, you stated you assisted in the planning of this robbery. You assisted in getting the guns for this robbery, but you never admitted to your participation in this robbery and the murder of Miss Business Luttrell. That concerns me. Today is a day of truth, Mr. Kelly. It is time that you take full responsibility for your actions. So tell this panel exactly what happened in the early morning hours of December 21st, 1997, at Chili's restaurant in Kenner, Louisiana, and tell us who shot Ms. Jennifer Luttrell in the back of her head as she knelt on her knee. Mr. Kelly.
The early morning hours of December 21st, 1997, after making an attempt to retrieve another weapon for the sole purpose of robbing Chili's where Miss Jennifer Luttrell murdered, I left an accomplice's house and I went to the Chili's establishment. I sat in the parking lot and I waited for someone to come out the door. It was Miss Jennifer Luttrell. I had a gun and I escorted her back into the establishment and asked her where the money was. She proceeded to lead me towards the manager's office, to where the money supposedly was, and I had her at gunpoint by her head, with the gun pointed at her head. At that time, the alarm went off. I panicked, and I shot Miss Jennifer Luttrell in the head.
Thank you, sir. I appreciate you finally taking full responsibility. At no time before this hearing did you admit participation in the robbery and the murder of Mrs. Jennifer Luttrell. And I appreciate your honor. My second concern is were you on any type of drugs? Or were you consuming alcohol before you committed this crime?
Yes, sir. I was using drugs. I was a heavy marijuana user prior to and leading up to the murder of Ms.
So you were heavily involved with illegal drugs. Is that
Excuse me.
correct?
Excuse me.
You were,
Excuse me.
You just stop them talking. I don't think we've
okay,
ever seen
Mr.
that.
Kelly?
Oh,
All right, how long have you been using marijuana?
yeah, his junior attorney should
Since
hand
leaving
him
college.
a tissue.
So 1997, maybe 4 years.
Do you use any other type of illegal drug?
No, sir.
Do you ever an abuser of alcohol?
No, sir.
So that night you had smoked several marijuana cigarettes.
I don't recall exactly how much I smoked that night, but I definitely was under the influence.
My third concern is retribution. April of this year will be only 25 years after your arrest. You were arrested on April 6, 1998. So you hadn't even served 25 years for a premeditated murder of a human being while committing felony on robbery. I'm of the opinion that 25 years is not sufficient time to serve retribution for this heinous, egregious offense. We have a husband who had just finished law school, and I imagine Jennifer was working at Chile, supporting her husband from law school, and they just graduated, and they were about to enjoy life for the first time. They were only 24 years old and 25 years old. And you're going to serve 25, less than 25 years for the brutal murder of Jennifer Latrell. So tell me why you think 24 plus years is sufficient persecution.
Mr. Roshi, I cannot. I cannot fairly state to you that 25 years is a fair amount of time to be served for the murder of Miss Jennifer Latrell. That would be unfair. But I can share with you that I have come to terms that I once had behaviors, attitudes that I exercised, choices that were very, very immoral. And I had a problem with it once I came to terms with it. I can tell you that I am disgusted and appalled at bringing so much pain to Mr. Luttrell's family, my family, and my community. I can tell you that it is the most unsettling thing that I've ever experienced. And I am disappointed. I can tell you that I'm disappointed because my family didn't raise me to turn out this way. And I can tell you that I've made every effort to change the mentality that I now detest and hate that played a part in separating Miss Luttrell from her husband, her loved ones, and her family. I can't tell you that, sir.
Thank you, Mr. Kelly. Thank you. Mr. Kelly, I will listen intently as this hearing continues. I will listen to your supporter. I will listen to the persons that are in opposition to clemency. And I will deliver my recommendation at the appropriate time. Warden Falco, do you have any comment, remarks, or observations at this time?
Mr. Rocha, you've been thorough on your questioning and your summary of what's going on with Samuel. I can add that he has been a Class A trustee since December of 2012, as well as being a mentor in reentry, moral rehabilitation mentor. Back a couple of years ago, he was chosen to be interviewed by the state police barracks, to go to state police barracks. He deferred that to continue working here with our new men program dealing with substance abuse as a peer supporter. So since 2021 as well, he's been a superior porter for our new men. He was initially housed in Walnut 3, and then on, although a dormitory style, he was in one of our cell blocks with open door to help with supporting these guys that are dealing with substance abuse problems, and he continues to do so.
Thank you, Warden Falco. Madam Chairman, I do not have a recommendation at this time.
Thank you, Mr. Rocha.
I will continue to evaluate the testimony given, and I'll make my recommendation at the appropriate time.
Thank you, Mr. Rocha. Mr. Lancaster and Ms. Daigle, I have several people who've indicated they'd like to speak. So as you know, our rules allow for 3. Can you tell me who they'll be?
We're gonna have Eric Nelson, who's present in Angola with us, as well as Mr. Christian Seymour, who's also present with us.
Okay, and then we have also
And Carrie Myers with Parole Project.
so we'd like to hear from Mr. Seymour. Thank you, sir. You can stay where you are.
So you'll be fine right there.
Good morning, board. With my statement, I have a few quotes as far as my brother. With this situation, I was 12 years old, and I have some statements for them. One is by John Wooden. The true test of a man's character is what he does when no one is watching. one by Martin Luther King is true measures of a man is not how he behaves in moments of comfort and convenience, but how he stands at times of controversy and challenges. In the Bible, it says in 2 Corinthians 5:17, therefore, if anyone is in Christ, he is a new creation. The old has passed away. Behold, the new has come. In Ezekiel 36:26, it says, and I will give you a new heart, a new spirit I will put within you. I will remove the heart of stone from your flesh and give you a heart of flesh. And the last scripture is Proverbs 23:7. It says, as a man thinketh in his heart, so is he. Meaning, if he is convicted in his mind, his heart, and his spirit to change, instead of hiding behind his words, his actions speaks for him. And as far as my brother, I learned a lot from this situation growing up. He taught me not to make mistakes, not to make those same mistakes. He's been emotionally supportive to me and my family. Anytime I needed him, I sent a message on JPay, he calls me. A testament to him being selfless. My situation, is far better than his. And he put his emotions aside to tend to me and my family, to guide me through life. Because we both come from a fatherless household. And a man that walked through those gates 24 years ago is not the man that you see before you. He's loving, he's nurturing. My kids are happy to talk to him. He asks about the kids. We just was talking about my oldest daughter getting a scholarship. The father figure that I didn't have, Sam is that for me. And the father figure that I wanted to be, I'm that for my kids. And my big brother contributes to that. I just want to say thank you for even giving us this opportunity. This is something that we pray for, and we do send condolences to the Luttrell family, from our whole family, because we have a spiritual background. We wasn't raised that way, And when it happened, I didn't talk to my brother for 11 years. 11 years, and with time, the Bible taught us to forgive, give grace, love unconditionally, love how God loves us, and I do believe if Sam was given a second chance, he can contribute to, helping the youth get things together, because we talk about that. How can we give back to the kids that's under us that went through this, the same stories, that's fatherless, who have fathers in the system, and it starts with us having similar stories, being relatable to them,
Right. Yes, sir. Mr. Seymour, can you wrap it up for us so we can hear from Mr. Nelson?
I'm finished, ma'am. Thank you.
All right, thank you, sir. Mr. Nelson?
Yeah, thank you, board. I've got some prepared notes here because I didn't want to miss anything. And I come to y'all, I want to make sure I'm speaking as a human and I'm speaking as an educator. I'm a lifelong educator. So my wife and I came here to Angola to the art and craft show, and there this gentleman sat with a smile and a stack of books, as varied as a tenured professor. There was one on economics, one on art history, another on real estate. And we sat down next to this gentleman, and it turns out his name was Sam Kelly. His intellect, his kindness and grace hooked us that first day for 3 hours as we had the initial chance to meet Sam. We shared stories and philosophies, and I had a depth of conversation with him that I've never had with even lifelong friends. And since that serendipitous meeting 5 years ago, Chelsea and I have not only remained close friends with Sam, but his family that I see on Zoom there today. His art hangs on the walls of our house and many of our relatives' homes. We take our own kids and our dog to go see Grandma Betty, who I see on Zoom, and his Aunt Robin often, and they impart the knowledge that Sam does on us and our kids as well. I want you to know decisions like you have to make today, the four of you, is one that I take very seriously as a lifelong educator. I've been doing it for 27 years as a teacher, as a principal, as an assistant superintendent, and central office leader. I've visited 350 schools. I've been in 1,000 classrooms, and I've hired 200 to 300 teachers and principals. And so I, like you, have faced with every one of those times is like, I have to read people. I have to get to the truth like you're getting to today. And I have to think, are they moral? Do they have the capacity to grow and be better? Are they selfless? Are they empathetic? Can they be trusted? Do they continually strive to be better for the greater good in their community? And through my personal interactions with Sam, after seeing all these other educators throughout my life, being dozens of email interactions, talking to his family about him, talking to his brother about him, talking to Keith about him, talking to Mary about him, he proves to me that through his studies, you heard all of the various degrees he's gotten, through the mentoring that he's done here in Angola. To that end, I think he is that person that I would hire, that I would trust to be with the most precious resource in our community, our children. So I think that, and I think he deserves clemency today, but I want to tell you about even more people that I see. So multiple times when visiting here in Angola, we'll be visiting with Sam, and we will, out of the blue, hear the scream, "Sam Kelly, it is so good to see you." And someone will run up and give him a huge bear hug. And it's one of those mentees that maybe wrote one of those letters that you have. And they said, "If it were not for you, I would not be out. If it were not for you, I would not be thriving when I'm outside." And Mary has said the same thing, that every time she comes and visits him, that exact same thing happens. So I tell you, your decision today cannot be easy. Many eyes are watching. You're going to hear pros and cons. But I tell you, in my estimation, when it comes down to, is this truly a person that's rehabilitated? Is this truly a person, as you said, that's different when they came in these gates 24 years ago? And is this truly a person that you can believe the truth of what you're hearing today? Without a shadow of a doubt, Sam is that person. And that's why I wholeheartedly believe that he will not only, survive, but thrive when given this opportunity to continue to help others and make the community better, to make up for the things that were dark in the community prior. And he will make a difference. So thank you for giving me a chance to speak today.
Yes, sir. All right, Pro Project, Mr. Myers.
Yes, Kerry Myers with Louisiana Parole Project. What you've heard is kind of a synopsis of everything that I could say about Mr. Kelly. We are certainly prepared to offer Mr. Kelly our support in Parole Project. We are here to help him transition 25 years. Obviously the world has changed. We are here to give him all the tools and the support he needs. There is little doubt that Mr. Kelly is a person who can be a productive member of society, one who gives and doesn't take, one who makes a difference in people's lives. He can never undo his actions, but I think that you have seen his sincere remorse and his own his own disgust at his own actions, but it's something that has made him grow into the person he is today. And that's why we're here, to look at who this person is today. 25 years, is there anything at all that more that can be done for continued incarceration of Mr. Kelly? Is there any benefit to it? Can this man be a better asset to our society, giving back? Should this board give him a recommendation? And Parole Project is certainly here to make sure he does exactly that, to give back. So we just ask this board to grant his recommendation today.
Thank you. Now we'd like to hear from Mr. Robert Luttrell.
Thank you, board members. On December 21st, 1997, Nathaniel Culberson, Houston Jackson, and Sam Kelly murdered my wife. He can never give that back. He can never, ever pay for that. And all the nice people that say all the nice things about him, his brother, yeah, you get to talk to him. They get to talk to Sam Kelly. I can never talk to her again. I can't. My mom can't. My dad can't. My little brother can't. Her mom, her dad. Never again. Ever can anyone talk to her again. He took a life from this world that was bright. And until today, I had no idea that he pulled the trigger. None. She was on her knees, shot in the back of the head, and left on the floor to die. There is no amount of time he can spend in prison that will ever make up for that. He took everything from me. That's all I have.
Thank you, Mr. Luttrell. Mr. Meyer.
Good morning, Randy Meyer, Assistant DA, Jefferson Parish. We're strongly opposed to his request at this time. Number one, as you just seen, is very strong victim opposition. You know, a lot of the things I was looking at are the issues that Mr. Roche had brought up. You know, number one is the nature of the offense. Ms. Luttrell was shot in the back of the head. The exit wound came out the front of her head. She was just an innocent person doing a job. For that, Mr. Kelly is asking that he be released sometime. You know, today he's looking to get a commutation of sentence from his life sentence plus 5 years. But he's only served less than 25 years. You know, when you commit a crime, there's two things that you have to face. One is punishment. And I submit that less than 25 years is nowhere near sufficient punishment for the crime that was committed in the manner in which Ms. Luttrell was shot. The other thing that you get when you commit a crime, you know, you go to jail for punishment. You also go to jail to try to get rehabilitation. And I think Mr. Kelly has done a good job with that. However, the big issue that I had is exactly what Mr. Roche was bringing up. Mr. Kelly has never admitted in his application for a pardon, in his communications with the parole officer doing the clemency investigation, and then post-conviction proceedings that he has filed. He has never admitted to the crime. If you don't admit to the crime, you can't be rehabilitated. The first step is admitting to that crime, and he did that today. And to me, today is the first step in his rehabilitation, and he shouldn't be granted any leniency on the first day of his rehabilitation. You know, he admitted to planning a robbery and thus being responsible for her death. But as we stated today, he's actually the man who shot her. He went into the Chili's restaurant and he shot her in the back of the head. As late as 2015, Mr. Kelly was filing post-conviction applications, contesting the conviction and contesting that there was some false statements made and contesting his conviction. In 2015, he was still not admitting to the facts of the crime that he has committed. and thus could not have started his rehabilitation until after that. And again, that's not till today. For those reasons, we are strongly opposed to his request and ask that this board deny his request for commutation of sentence.
Thank you, Mr. Meyer. All right, that concludes all our speakers. So, Mr. Kelly, before we turn it over to Ms. Daigle, is there a statement you'd like to make to the board?
Yes, yes, ma'am. First, I want to say thank you again to every board member for granting me this opportunity to appear before you. In December of 1997, I willingly participated in the plan of the robbery of the Chili's restaurant where Ms. Jennifer Luttrell was murdered. I killed Ms. Luttrell after a series of selfish, senseless, and irresponsible choices. She did not deserve this. No one deserved this. I was terribly wrong.
I think the board dropped off.
The board dropped.
So just hang on 1 second.
Selfless, senseless, irresponsible choices. So the board dropped. Wow, it's intense. It's incredible that he only today.
We're having an issue with our camera being on. If y'all would like to go ahead and proceed, we can go ahead and proceed. The board can see and hear you.
Thank you, Prince.
Thank you. I was terribly wrong and deeply regret every decision I made that led to her murder. I betrayed Mrs. Luttrell's family, and my community. Once again, I'm disgusted and ashamed of my attitudes and actions that caused so much pain, suffering, and trauma. My guilt is heavy, heart-wrenching. Truth of my actions broke me, of which I am truly sorry. I regret allowing myself to think that crime and violence were options for overcoming life's challenges. I hate the character of the person I once was. My senseless cowardice and fearful killing of Mrs. Luttrell proves that I was a moral failure during that time in my life. And I did need to be removed from society and receive corrections. Since then, I've given myself completely to every rehabilitative opportunity the Department of Corrections has to offer, educationally, spiritually, personally, and vocationally. And in furtherance of that, I've put forth every effort to give back. And again, I'm broken because I cannot give back that which I am responsible for taking. It is no longer a job to me to do what I do. It is now my duty to help prevent senseless acts of victimization. Again, I am deeply sorry, and I apologize for the pain and suffering I've caused in Mrs. Luttrell's life, my family's life, and the lives of so many. Thank you.
We're working on our video, but we can see you and hear you if you'd like to proceed with your presentation.
Thank you, Chairman and members of the board. After listening to Mr. Kelly and the speakers today, one thing is for certain. Mr. Kelly is a changed man. He is not the once selfish, self-absorbed, defiant, anti-authority, drug addict 22-year-old. Rather, he's empathetic, studious, mature, and wise. He has participated and has been a leader in almost every program that LSP has to offer. and his decision-making patterns and thought processing skills have greatly changed. He does not justify, blame, or minimize anything he has done. Instead, he has an open mindset, needs to come to terms with the reality and circumstances, and he doesn't let that stunt his growth. He self-reflects before he self-reveals and self-destructs. Mr. Kelly's growth will help him smoothly re-enter society because they are characteristics that are commended in society today. LSP has also recognized the characteristics that Mr. Kelly has because they made him a model inmate and he was able to speak at the Life with Other Possibilities in New Orleans Summit. Mr. Kelly has also mentored over 50 mentees, and they've all successfully re-entered the community, which is a true testament to Mr. Kelly's total transformation and rehabilitation. Over the past 24 years of time here at Angola, he's had time to reflect, grow, and prepare himself for a life outside if he is granted. And if granted clemency and release, Mr. Kelly will not just survive, but thrive in the community. He won't be an ordinary member, but he will be helping the community in every way he possibly can. And so for these reasons and any other that may appear apparent to this honorable board, Mr. Kelly respectfully requests a recommendation to commute both of his sentences to a term of 48 years. Thank you. The board is prepared to vote. Mr. Roche will be voting first.
Mr. Kelly,
Yes, sir.
can you hear me?
Yes, sir.
Mr. Kelly, you have done very well in your incarceration. You have armed yourself with multiple vocations. You have taken all the substance abuse programs that the Louisiana State Penitentiary has to offer and all the other programs, and you're heavily involved in faith-based programs, also heavily involved in community service. I would like to give you a recommendation today, but I think a recommendation of a commutation of sentence to 99 years with 30 years served would give the victims time to adjust to your release. Because the victim, especially the husband and the parents, are still suffering emotionally from the murder of their daughter and wife. And I would like to see serve at least 30 years. But based on state laws, if I made a recommendation of 99 years after serving 30, it would be superseded by state law. So based on that, based upon opposition from the family who is adamantly opposed to your clemency, law enforcement opposition from the DA's office, the nature of the offenses that you committed, premeditated murder, and an insufficient time served, my vote is to deny your request.
Thank you, Mr. Roach. Mr. Marabella.
Thank you, Madam Chairman. Mr. Kelly, as I review your file and as I listen to everyone who's talked today, no question, you're a changed man. You've done a lot of very positive things. You've helped a lot of people while you've been in prison. Those are all very, very commendable things. No question, the crime is a horrible crime. Victims are always suffering for what defendants do to them. I also feel that maybe 24, 25 years is not sufficient time. But you've done a lot. I vote today based upon all of the things that you've been able to accomplish, based upon the comments by the warden. My vote today would be to grant a commutation to 99 years with immediate parole eligibility. And that would be my vote.
Mr. Green.
This is a tough one for as far as I think you've done everything you can in Angola and probably gotten most of what you needed to get out of it. But as Mr. Roche says, it's also a restitution to a crime, and that's a sentence. And, you know, manslaughter, you would get 40 years or 25 years. So for murder, I just can't see 24 years as being enough time. So my vote is to deny.
All right, Mr. Kelly. This is no easy case. I've listened carefully to everybody that's talking, you in particular, about who you were and who you are, and listening out the documents in the record and the folks who have spoken on your behalf, and certainly listening to Mr. Luttrell in the DA's office. I believe that you're not the same person that you were that committed this horrible crime. I would be willing to give you a chance and vote as Mr. Marabella did to commute your sentence to 99 years with parole eligibility. So that would be my vote. However, you've received 2 votes to deny, 2 votes to grant. So the outcome of today's proceedings is that your application for 22 has been denied.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
Sometimes I feel like I'm just losing my mind when I watch these things. Like I'm a total crazy person. Tell me, am I nuts? Or do I not understand what's going on? Especially from Mr. Roche. I mean, he denied it. So maybe I shouldn't say that, but he just only admitted for the first time today at this hearing that he pulled the trigger. How is that someone deserving of anything? How is that someone who's deserving of freedom? It's madness. Jennifer's husband, for the first time, knows which of the 3 men killed his wife. Sorry about I don't know what happened earlier with their camera. He lied through the application for his pardon hearing. I don't know when he filed it and how many years ago that was. So it's hard to, was it 2 years ago, 1 year ago? He lied through post-conviction, which again, I don't know. But as far as 2015, he was contesting his conviction, saying that for relief, saying he didn't pull the trigger, so he shouldn't even be given a life sentence. This is not someone who is worthy of freedom. Remember, this is the same man who walked into a store and a young woman bopped the back of the head and execution style pulled the trigger. senselessly. No money was taken. He for what reason? The alarm went off and he got spooked. That's a man that should ever be given another chance to begin with? What if he gets spooked again? But then on top of it, he lied in every single step of the way. Only today when Mr. O'Shea asked him, did he admit it? And he had planned it. It was in his speech even where he admitted it. He knew he was going to admit it. Somewhere along the road, he realized he had to. I do wonder, all of his supporters, how long they knew about it. And how many of them heard it for the first time? There was a room full of supporters. A room full. And then you have people on the board that are just like, yeah, you're doing great. You turned around. You know, you should be let out, but you haven't served long enough. Well, what do you... I don't know. Is it just me? Should I be more forgiving? Should I be more like understanding that, you know, people wanted to know who pulled the trigger. They had to go all those years through all of the court proceedings and trials with people pointing fingers at each other and lying and not knowing who is responsible. It's not a light thing to now know. And what about his two co-defendants? It was 3 people that went in there and robbed it, and then what's with the 2 co-defendants? I just thought of that now. Are they all serving life sentence because he didn't want to admit that he pulled the trigger? Or they all served trial together? All 3 of them served trial together. The 12-person jury unanimously found each one guilty of the 2 counts. I wonder what this is going to mean for them. I wonder if they can file conviction relief. They should get their attorneys going. This would be the first public statement that they can now say, I didn't pull the trigger. Because you know what? I do believe there's a difference. When you go in with 3 people and your buddy over there, I mean, they're going to rob. Their deal is to rob, is to get some cash. They're robbing a restaurant, of all places, Chili's restaurant. And they get stuck with murder because their nut job friend over there panics when the alarm goes off. What's that even mean, panic? I don't even believe it. She was on her knees. As Mr. Meyer said, the district attorney, the bullet went through the back of her head, out the front. Execution style. It's cowardice and sick. And then the fact that he denied it and didn't take culpability until today, and the board doesn't throw the book at him, disgusting. That he would even get 2 votes. Ridiculous. Shaking my head. I agree with everything Mr. Meyer said. Today could be the day that he starts. Today can be the day that he starts. Nothing before today. And I do owe an apology to Meyer. Mr. Meyer, the DA. I always have been getting angry at him for picking and choosing which cases he shows up to, but I was corrected by Richard. It's Mr. Meyer shows up to every single one of his cases. It just happens to be that he doesn't get the cockroach cases, and it's just other parishes, and he shows up to every case. Do I think he should be showing up to the cases he shows up to? No, but he's not picking and choosing like I had thought. It still doesn't change the way that it's working in Louisiana, but I owe him a personal apology, I suppose. Now, I do want to give credit to Samuel's brother. He's, why? Because he said he didn't talk to his brother for 11 years, and that's pretty incredible. I mean, he was that hurt. I wonder if his brother knew that he pulled the trigger, if he had confided in him. Because again, if he didn't pull the trigger, why would he not talk to him for 11 years? Like, I can't put myself in other people's shoes, but I can see why you wouldn't want to talk if you knew you pulled the trigger. You get what I'm saying? But if you were in the room with your buddy that pulled the trigger, I would talk to him. So I wonder if he had to have known. I think the irony, if that's it, of this case, is that I'm reading the court, and I'll put it in here now from the appeal. It says between 1:54 a.m. and 1:55 a.m., the alarm monitoring company Honeywell received 3 alarms. Mary Brown, the team leader for the Data Integrity Division of Honeywell, testified that the first alarm was set off by the infrared motion detector. The second alarm was set off by an interior door, and the third alarm was tripped by an outside door. Ms. Brown stated that all 3 alarms were restored, meaning that whatever caused the alarms to go off went back to normal conditions, such as when a door opened or closed. So this guy panicked over the alarm, and meanwhile, nothing was triggered. That's not even what brought the cops to the scene. The cleaning crew Frank Kerner and Bonnie Kerner arrived at Chili's between 2:15 and 2:20 a.m. Kerner testified upon arrival he noticed Miss Luttrell's car parked in an unusual angle in the parking lot. As he approached the door of the restaurant, he saw paper scattered on the floor inside and knew something was wrong. Once inside, he found Miss Luttrell on the floor, bleeding, but still alive. Despite medical attention, Miss Luttrell died of a gunshot wound to the back of the head. When the detective arrived, he noticed that Miss Luttrell was still wearing her jewelry, consisting of her wedding ring. I think I called it engagement ring at the beginning. Earrings and a gold chain. Her purse was on the serving area, and her keys were next to her on the floor. No money was missing from the restaurant safe. It's just so senseless. So senseless. She worked a double shift that night. It took 3 months. Over the next 3 months, Cunningham, the detective, continued to investigate it. Wow, it took 3 months. He learned if Culverson and Kelly had planned to rob the restaurant and that Jackson was involved in the plan. He obtained information that they intended to rob the restaurant by holding a gun to the manager's head and forcing her to open the safe. In 1998, he obtained warrants for all 3 defendants. Um, they were so young. He had just graduated law school. She was working hard, working double shifts to put him through law school. They're newly married. They have their whole lives ahead of them. And then it's taken senselessly by a coward with a gun. You were 3 full-grown men going into a restaurant with a 20-something-year-old female manager. What do you even need the gun for? And you load it? And you point it at her? You're a coward. You're a coward. And then the alarm goes off and you panic, so you shoot her in the back of the head. You have no appreciation for life. You have no, it just doesn't make sense. It doesn't process. But then to add to it, it's that he didn't admit it until today, which is audacity. It's something sick about that. Do you realize what Robert, her husband at the time, do you realize what he said? He said this is the first time that he knew. And that's just breezed over and then congratulated. Good job admitting it. That's why I feel like I'm going crazy. I mean, everyone even approved him, saying like, I wish I could. You're doing great. You're doing everything you can. But I mean, I get that they denied him, but still, I don't see it. I just don't, and it was up until even 2015, he was filing motions, and then later than 2015, because there's no way that he started applying for clemency after that. I don't know. It's because I only think that he admitted to it now because he knew that he had to. He knew that he had to. That's not something that should be commended. He should have admitted it a long time ago. I thought Robert spoke really well. Everyone else who spoke in the defense in the support of Mr. Kelly, they had these long rambling speeches. Robert, short and to the point, concise. Said it how it was. Said it how it is. I thought the attorney in training did really well, especially taking into account that everything like went wrong with the projector and the screen, and that's it's easy to kind of like freeze or panic or but that's great. She did great. Yeah, it's like, as always, I look to be told when with countering opinions. Maybe I missed something. Maybe there's something else. Maybe you feel differently about it. Maybe you understand the application process a little bit more. You can shine some light to it in the comment section. With that, I'll let you go.